Hello everyone, welcome to Motorsport Report. I'm your host, Julia Piquet. This is Charles Bradley, our Motorsport.com editor-in-chief, joining us today to talk about all things NASCAR.
Yep.
But Charles, before we talk about last weekend's Cup race at Atlanta Motor Speedway, you were at the Daytona 500. Why don't you share with us some of your thoughts from NASCAR's Super Bowl season opener?
Well, I'll start with the winner, because call me Nostradamus, but I spoke to one driver pre-race, and it was Denny Hamlin, and here's what he had to say.
How does it feel to win it? I mean, as a former winner yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, especially in the shape and form in which we won the closest finish in history, you know, coming from behind fourth place. It was amazing. So no feeling like it, and I get reminded of it every day in my living room when I got my car sitting there, right there in the little showroom. So it's really cool to, you know, Toyota and FedEx let me have that car and kind of keep me reminded of it.
Well, how cool was that? Because obviously now he's got 2 Daytona winning cars to fit in his house, so I hope his front room's big enough to accommodate them both.
And how fitting, you know, he wins the first race after the sad passing of JD Gibbs. Just a very emotional story right there.
Absolutely. I mean, Denny was JD's driver. I mean, fantastic guy, really helpful. Helped me every time I wanted to speak to any of the guys at Gibbs. He was my conduit into the team, and was always saying, "You want to speak to Denny? I'm going to get Denny for you." Great guy. It was great to see all the guys standing up on lap 11 as well, giving him a great tribute. And I think JD's legacy will live on, as Coach Gibbs says, doing a lot of great work with his foundation for inner city kids. And and it was a great way for Denny to honour him with his second Daytona 500 win.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, over the weekend in Atlanta, Brad Keselowski gave the Ford Mustang its first victory in the Cup Series. In just their second outing, we've had 5 Fords in the top 10. Charles, how telling is this result for the rest of the season?
Well, it's great for Ford, obviously, with the new body shape, using the Gen 6 platform to express its obvious halo car, the Mustang. They were very strong at Daytona. I felt that they beat themselves in a way. I think that Toyota linking up with the Hendrick Chevy team kind of put Ford on the back foot a little bit, and then they seemed to knock themselves out from there. It was great to see Brad back into victory lane because he was really sick at the weekend.
Yeah.
He said that he wouldn't have been able to race if it was on the Saturday, but the car looked strong all day. We saw Harvick lead a lot of laps. We saw Joey Logano lead a ton of laps. Ryan Blaney, my Daytona pick, he looked really strong, and then he beat himself. He messed up a pit stop and then went backwards in the race. But I think it was very interesting to see that we actually had a Ford in victory lane, but we had a Toyota seconds with Martin Truex and then Kurt Busch's Chevrolet in third. It shows that the platform really does work across those 3 different brands, running 3 kind of very different cars, the Mustang, the Camaro and the Camry. And it goes to show that I think that NASCAR is really on the right way. And a lot of talk was going on at Daytona actually about the Gen 7 car that's going to happen for 2021 and what kind of platform that's going to be. Obviously, Toyota have brought in the Supra in the Xfinity Series. It won its first race at the weekend with Christopher Bell. So it'll be fantastic to see if NASCAR can actually manipulate its rules a little bit more to accommodate these different body shapes, because the Gen 6 platforms really worked very well. At the weekend we saw them have a much bigger front splitter, very much larger rear wing, which we're going to see a lot more of in Vegas this weekend as well.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens in Vegas. The 1.5 mile oval that generally produces some very exciting racing. Charles, who's your pick for this weekend?
I think I'm going to go with Kurt Busch. I think Ganassi's 1.5 mile package looks really strong. We saw Larson lead a lot of races, and Kurt was always in the top 5 or 6 this weekend just gone. A little bit of an unknown with the full-blown package that they're going to run this weekend, but Kurt was part of the test at the end of January. I think Ganassi are in a much stronger position than Hendrick at the moment. I think they are actually the top Chevrolet team. So as much as it's very tempting to pick Ford or a Toyota, I'm going to go out on a limb and pick Kurt Busch this weekend.
Well, I went for temptation. I picked another Ford this weekend. You know, the drivers, I feel like it's always a gamble in NASCAR, but I'm going to go with Clint Bowyer. I liked what I saw in Atlanta. He's been pretty consistent. We know the car is fast. Let's see.
Hope he doesn't lose his mind like he did in Daytona. That was one reason Ford did not win Daytona, was Clint Bowyer losing his mind.
Well, let the best man win. Charles, thank you so much for joining us. That's it for today's Motorsport Report. I'm Julia Piquet, and see you next time.